And so that thank you for all of you to attend about these presentations. And so that I desire about this topic 2 reasons. First one is I do not repeat about other speaker to talk about similar topics. And so that the cruise is actually only mine to do about the presentations. And second one, this is my favorite to do about this research. And this paper has already published in Polygeography and worked with Professor Adolf and also Margaret from Thailand. And so that I come from the Division of Business and Hospitality Management, School of Professional Education and Executive Development. The abbreviation is called SPEED, affiliated to Hong Kong Polytechnic University as well. And so that how can we define about the Arctic region? And so that I can say is come from the Quebec or of the Greenland. So that Christelle has also mentioned is about the largest area for the Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and also the Russia. Actually, I can say I read some of the reports mentioned that Russia is the largest of the Arctic region area, is about 53%. And also I can say so that we can also close to the Arctic Circle. And also out of these of the geographical scope indicate that it is described as a remote and difficult access. And so that I can say it is low any human capital issues, insufficient trained staff, and happening some of the cultural and natural conditions very difficult. And so that I can say the cruise line most likely will not consider this out of the geographical scope, because I can say the climate situation is very rough situation as well. And so that you can see about the change of the Arctic as well. When you see about September 1980, that is about as a very large area. But after the around 40 years, and so that has significantly reduced. And so that I can read some of the report in 2100. And so that is totally ice-free. And so that I can say, good thing is we can easy to navigate to the Arctic region. The difficult, the bad thing is some of the animals may be suffered. And so that I can say, for example, polar bear. And so that I like polar bear very much. When I go to the study tour with my student, led by Professor Adolf, go to Manitoba, and I go to the national park, we are very lucky can see the polar bear swimming in the national park. And Professor Adolf told me that it is quite difficult to see the polar bear because they may not very frequent to appear. Polar bear is very interesting and lovely about that. And also you can see some of the northern lights. And so that I can say northern lights is also quite some of the lucky things about that. I have a friend go to 1 week about the trip, cannot see this scenario. And they think that it is a waste of the money, cannot see about this light. And so that I can say it is some of the lucky to see about the weather conditions as well. And I see that some of the northern Canadian region can easy to see about that. And so that why we develop about the Arctic cruise, because we can see some of the wild animals like polar bear, northern sea light about that. And so that I can say Arctic cruise tourism is a very new and emerging area. And so that in the traditional situation, I can say the cruise market most likely developed in the Northern America and European. And starts from the 2000, I can say is Asia. And I can say later on is Arctic cruise. I did not, you will remember that one of the secondary school is international school, is to design and carry out one of the study tour going to the Arctic region about that. Their trip per one student is $0.15 million. So that I can say when I organize a study tour in my school, I can propose to my school, go to the Arctic region. I also want to go, and support me to go is okay, because I have not much of the money to support myself, right? And so that I can to get some of the free travel about that. So that is very good. And so that it is an attractive cruising destination, can see some of the polar bears, and also some of the unexpected cultures in terms of people, landscape, and icebergs about that. I can say that some of the tourists mentioned from the travel agents mentioned that in April, most of the tourists want to see the collapse of the iceberg. But I can say it is some of the situation maybe have some of the need to pay attention to the safety, because collapse of the icebergs is actually, I can say, is quite dangerous, and so that may be easy to get about the accident about that. And interesting shore excursions and travel agents mentioned is not easy to go on board onshore destinations, and so that it's just only to stay at the ship, stay at the cruise ship, and then to see some of the elsewhere. And also unexpected experience, I think is okay. And what is the market structure of the Arctic shipping? The capacity is expanding steady, and also I can say robustly in the coming years. Annual growth rate of around 500 berths. And more the shipping lines are entered into the market with diverse of the range of the focus. I can say nowadays the most of the people has a higher living standard, and more they have their job, their salary is very good, and so that I can say they retired most of the dream want to go to the Arctic region as well. At the moment, the market is also quite thematic and also does not show any trend of the concentration about that. As a result, the competition between about some of the cruise line is not very keen competition. I can say not much very choice to go to the cruise lines when you go to the Arctic region, and no company is yet strong enough to dominate about the others. I can say it is much of the challenges when we want to do some of the Arctic cruise research about that. And Antarctica slightly more established compared with the Arctic region. And so that I have already interviewed for most of the well-experienced for the tourists. And most of them, they go to the Antarctica. But Arctic, they are very few times, or even though they have not go to there about that. And notably, companies in the Arctic cruising market include some of the with the 12 ships, and also the French luxury cruise line with the 11 luxury ships described are mega yachts, and also another luxury cruise ship based in the and focus on the Antarctica as well. And so that you can see some of the market structure of the Arctic shipping as well. And so that you can see although there is about the COVID-19, I can say it is not significantly affected about that. So that when we hear about the COVID-19, we cannot hear some of the any COVID cases from appear in the Antarctica or Arctic region as well. But I can say you can see the Arctic shipping is going is very good about that. When you combine between the Antarctica and Arctic, it starts from the 8,615 to the 11,000 something about that, for the total of the ship schedules about that. And number of the itineraries visiting about the Arctic regions in the 2022 about that. And so that you can see their average price is quite expensive about that. So that I can say, because why that is the luxury, because I can say in the Arctic vessels, there is only around 15 guys or 10 guys can be travel within about the cruise ship. Because I can say the cruise line need to think about some of the average price to cover about the variable cost is very important. And every trip length, I can say most likely they need to spend about around 15 days. Sometimes maybe 1 month is a very common situation. And the other cruise vessels routing selection, I can say nowadays there is a very common terms is about the ice zero attract the interest of some of the observer regarding about the Arctic navigations about that. So the ice still road most likely maybe use some of the pass-through about Russia. It's the largest Arctic country, 53% of the Arctic land, and only one country with the shortest distance to the Europe as well. But I can say I'm not sure whether the situation is will be changing after some of the geopolitical situations about that. But we can further doing some of the research and we use about the farming factors to see which of the Russian ports can be favorable to do some of the berthing of the Arctic region in terms of geographical location, sustainable development, navigation factor, human factor, and China-Russia cooperation foundations to assess 10 typical about the Arctic cruise port about that. And so that you can see some of the map is drawn by from the AIS data for the complex network analysis. Actually, you can see about the cruise shipping network is quite concentrated about that. I can say they have not much of the choice to develop about the routings. And so that you can see some of the out of the geographical locations is quite difficult to develop about the itinerary. When we decide about the cruise routing, actually they need to think about some of the different shops, whether they can connect with each other. If one shop or one of the cruise port has a problem, then it will break up about the train about that. And so that you can see when go to the Arctic about the shipping routes, most likely is very concentrated and also few choices about that. And so that the last part is some of the regulations governing some of the Arctic cruise ship operations about that. And this does not only involve some of the environmental, but also we need to think about the socio-economic aspect, because we need not only focus of environment, but also how to get about the profit is very, very important. And so that nowadays, when we develop about the cruise tourism, we also think it's about the negative cruise tourism. Negative cruise tourism means that some of the cruise vessels has get some of the emissions to damage about the marine environment, and Gomen and also Christelle and Adolf and also Mawuli talking about some of the oil spill is quite important and noise pollution about that. In Canada, there are about some of the 600 communities scattered across the northern territories and northern part of some of the, for example, Manitoba. But any type of the pollution generated by shipping, including some of the cruise vessels, may affect some of the migrations routes and marine behavior that can pose huge impacts on the livelihoods of such of the communities. Because I can say some of the communities may be complained about that it will totally affect their daily life or some of their habits about that. There is an urgent need for better legislation and guidelines that govern about the Arctic shipping, including about the Arctic cruise operations in the northern Canada about that. I can say some of the legislations is still voluntary. It's not compulsory to manage about the cruise line operators about that. And there is some of the protocol is stressed that ensure some of the more tight practice within about the polar waters is warranted as an essential and positive development for Arctic shipping as well. And although some of the guidelines for the operation of passenger vessels in Canadian Arctic waters, TP13670E, is promote some of the better quality passenger ship operations in Canada, including about some of the covering about the cruise ship about that, and clarify what are the responsibility between different agents, have different interests, different stakeholders of the Arctic shipping. Coordinate some of the expectations and commitments of those who organize about the Arctic tourism and trips. And so that for the responsibilities, I can say the cruise port, cruise line, and travel agents and tourists and also the communities, we need to think about the different stakeholders about that. And also another one regulations is pollution prevention guidelines for the operation of cruise ship under the Canadian jurisdiction. How about the cruise ship operator to develop some of the better procedure to comply with Canadian legislation of Arctic shipping and pollution about that? But I can say we still something about this legislation has some of the effective or some to manage or mitigate about some of the pollution issue, and suggest best practice that cruise ship operators strongly encouraged to follow guidelines state clearly on how cruise operator undertake about some of the waste management. I can say waste management is very important for a cruise ship. When I developed about one paper from Christelle, also doing some of the waste management, we found that there is about some of the backwater and also the tourists to throw away some of the rubbish and also some of the garbage whatsoever is million tons about that. And offer some of the framework reporting, inspection, and the preparation of training and education materials about that. And conclusion is that although a number of the other countries provide some of the basic infrastructure or facilities at the Arctic region, and also the Russian government inclined towards or are very struggle, or I can say work hard to provide some of the flexible policy to explore about the Arctic region. I can say from Russian government perspective, Arctic region is a strategic routing. They can get some of the ministry purpose and get some of the money income passing through about the Russian regions about that. Arctic region still face substantial problem due to a lack of significant development of marine infrastructure. I can say still left behind about that. So that's why maybe there are many ports in Arctic region. But I can say there are only 10 ports maybe have a suitable for doing some of the berthing about that. In the Canadian Arctic waters, developing an Arctic cruise still questionable issues and ambiguous about that. And currently, number of the cruise lines are not members of the Association of Arctic Expedition Cruise Operator, so that their awareness, adaptation strategy, and attitude to cruising in the Arctic region are still not clear about that. And so that we need to still long way ago to interview about the cruise line, what they think about that. And also I can say most of the cruise line very concerned how can they get about the profit. What are concerned about the environmental situation. We will investigate the study through a large scale survey from cruisers and in-depth infill from tourism association, government bodies, policymaker, and the cruise line in the next research about that. And so that thank you so much.